All right, a big thank you to our sponsors. Like I said, we cannot continue to bring you all these amazing shows without them. So, big round of applause. Make sure you go check them out. Now, today is one of my favorite days of the year. When we have Amy come on the shows, she loves to talk about industrialized construction. She loves to talk about advancing the construction industry, and she loves to share and collaborate around the world to make it happen. So, let's bring Amy onto the show right now. What is up, Amy?
I don't even know if I can match this energy today. I don't know how many people around the world I can even say that to, Dave, but for you.
Well, I appreciate that. You know what, Amy? I'm kind of like yourself. I love what I do. I love when I have people on the show that bring a lot of energy themselves. They have a lot of ideas. They're not afraid to put it on the table, and they're definitely not afraid to try new things. And I think that's what makes this show so great each and every year. And on top of that, you got one of the biggest growing shows in the industry, if not the biggest now, advancing prefabrication. So I'm super excited about that as well. So before we get into this, though, Amy, we want to know what you've been up to since the last time you've been on the show. We want to know everything about you. Why don't you give us a little update on all the things that are wonderful in the Queen of Prefabs world? And then we'll come back to this and we'll talk about your new title and everything else.
Yeah, well, I'm actually calling in from my new podcast studio, so that's new. And many of you probably recognize the throne from the Queen of Prefab series. And I'm excited about it. I think new things are happening all around the world. We're seeing more and more customers of ours and more people around the world embracing, this new outcome of industrialized construction and, lots of things that are adjacent to that are complementary, like sustainability and digitization and things like digital twin. So it's been a really busy year. And I'm just looking forward to what's going to happen at Advancing Prefab this year and some other shows that we have coming up that are just super exciting. Yeah. And by the way, lots of my friends out there and the sponsors love seeing your sponsors of this show. I feel like it's like old home week when I get to see some of your sponsors out there. So good on you.
Hey, listen, it's so much fun because, we share everybody's story and we let people make the decisions out there. So without the sponsors, we can't do what we do. So thank you for that. Really do appreciate it. All right, Amy, I love the chair. Where are you sitting right now?
Yeah, I'm in my new podcast studio and yeah,
Sweet.
I'm surrounded by lights and I'm realizing I had to sit on a little bit of a pillow because I'm only 5'3.5". I know you guys think I'm a huge, impending big figure, but I'm actually only 5'3.5". So I'm sitting on a little bit of a pillow on my new throne in my podcast studio. And that's where I'm calling from. Yeah, new things, lots of new things going on. New title actually for me.
Yeah, let's talk about that. So, you're already the queen of, prefab. So, what do you mean a new title? How many titles can one have? You're almost going to have to have a business card that's a full sheet of paper.
I feel like it's like beauty pageants. I just want to hold the crown for like some period of time and then give it back. No, so obviously, I'll always be the queen of prefab. Again, not a self-given name, but it's a name that's stuck that I really cherish and value. But no, my title was Vice President of Industrialized Construction at Autodesk. And on my business card, it always will say Queen of Prefab, probably forever. But it now also says, instead of industrialized construction, it says Vice President, Enterprise Transformation Practice. So that is actually my new title at Autodesk. Because, obviously this is not just about industrialized construction outcomes, but like I said, this is about how do we transform our businesses? How do we transform the industries within this ecosystem? How does Autodesk transform itself to make sure that, we're making our customers happy and that our business is changing and evolving as we go from a product company to a platform company. So it's just transformation all the way around. And I just love the interaction of the words, both internally and externally. So again, focusing on a lot of our consulting and our customer success, this practice is going to really elevate the brand. And I think also just what we're doing with our customers, elevate their brands and elevate lots of, thought leadership and customer success stories that we're talking about all day long. So it was the right time for me, obviously. And I think, it's so funny when I look around, so many people now have titles with industrialized construction in them. And it used to be no one. And, I feel like now I look everywhere and there's all these cool titles I never heard of before. And so it was just time, I think, as things evolve and things are changing. So we have to change with them.
I agree. And I want to jump into something you said after we talk about advancing prefabrication. Products company to a platform company. I think it'd be really great once we get through some of these other things if you explain exactly what that means to everybody out there.
Sure, I'd be happy to. You let me know when.
I will. All right, so let's get into this. All right, we have Advancing Prefab coming up. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's bigger than ever this year. The growth is huge. So why don't you tell us a little bit about what's going on there and what we can expect?
This is just our biggest year ever, and I think you're right. I think it actually is the biggest show in the United States, maybe around, maybe the world now for industrialized construction. And what's so great about it is we're just seeing. I mean, the growth of the show is it's almost like I don't know, 10xing itself in a matter of like less than a decade, practically. And so I think what's so great about that is this year we have a lot of new features of the show. So just like last year, though, we're doing for the second year our VP and CEO day. The same day as all the amazing tours that we do. We do the workshops that day. So there's even a Prefab 101, like a boot camp 101 that's happening, which is so fantastic because for people that are new to the space, we wanted to make sure that they had a place there. So that's new this year. Another fantastic thing that's new this year is we're doing this awards ceremony. So we put out a call for awards all around the world, and we had so many submissions. We had an amazing judging panel of experts from around the world. And so we had to really whittle it down, but we have these amazing awards and an award show that's happening that's going on at Advancing Prefab. So we'll be giving out, Project of the Year, Team of the Year, Innovator of the Year. There's so many great awards, and we wanted to really recognize some of the amazing work that's getting done. I think
Yeah.
one of the other cool things that we're doing this year is we're going to be doing some live research on stage on Thursday morning. Don't miss out on that. So we're going to be doing with our phones and our cell phones a little bit of teaching about new concepts and some research that morning. So we want to collect up, what's happening in the space and, what's enabling people, what's holding people back, what they know about, what new concepts they may have heard about, but they want to learn more about. Things like integrated factory modeling we'll talk about, and, embodied carbon and energy analysis. We're going to talk about all kinds of things that are around the space and see what people
Right.
know and what they're learning about what they're really doing. So don't miss Thursday morning. Obviously, the same keynotes and the great tracks that we have this year, but I've noticed there's an uptick in architects this year more so than ever before. So if you're an architect out there, use Dave
Yeah.
Cooper's discount code and get in there because all of the biggest architecture firms I know are already signed up.
That's right. DC Live 10. Save yourself 10% at Advancing Prefabrication this year. Definitely going to have a lot of fun. So we were at the event last year, Amy. In true Queen of Prefab notion, you came by and took my mic, took my camera, started running around the audience, which ended up being a lot of fun. And that video got a lot of views, which was great too, which we love. Education's such a big thing, right? There's a lot of who's who there, and we're talking everything from the small to mid-size manufacturers and builders all the way up to some of the largest mechanical contractors and builders across the United States and around the world. Bryden Wood, I mean, there were so many people there this year. I think, talking about these tours that you have coming up, let's lean into this a little bit more because these are the things that people do not get to see unless they watch you or I go through a factory or they come to an event like yours.
Yeah, it's an amazing factory tour. If you can get in on those factory tours, get in.
Yeah,
for sure.
So let's talk about it. You're going to be at WD Manor Mechanical, right?
Yes.
Is one of them. So I'm going to remove my banner here on the screen so people can see this. What are they doing? What are we doing there?
I mean, again, like every one of these tours has their own thing. We don't need to get into them each individually, but I think what's great about them is they're opening up their doors. By the way, that's always been the way that this conference has gone. Everybody has answered questions. They've been very honest. We've had lots of great tours in the past.
Right.
But and feel free to scroll through them, Dave. I don't mean like, not to show them, but what's great about these tours is that everyone has really been very open about things that work for them, things that they're struggling with, things that they are, what their strategies are for the next few years. I think that's the thing you're going to take away from a lot of these tours is you're getting this like open door policy to ask anything, to see anything from these great companies that are willing to share their processes because we all want everyone to rise up and to do better. And I think that's always been the notion of the show, the tours. I mean, they're fantastic. By the way, the workshops this year are off the chain.
Yep.
Like aside from the CEO day, the actual workshops that are going on, this is like world-class workshops that you couldn't get, to come out to your company, but because they're all here at Advancing Prefab, you got to take advantage of the workshop day in advance. There are fantastic workshops going around, and I love all the speakers are starting to talk about their workshops, and it's like a candy store of workshops. By the way, the last day of the show, which I forgot to mention, is an application, like a market application specific day.
Okay.
Which does so well.
What does that mean? What does that mean?
There's a whole track on hospitals. There's a whole track on manufacturing. There's a whole track on data centers. There's a whole track on, like housing and modular. So like those kinds of things, instead of those people having to look for these little bits and pieces, I know that last year that was one of the very well attended parts of the event where everyone that wanted to learn about data centers went to the data center track. Everyone who wanted to know about hospitals went to the hospital track. And I think that's great. So, and especially coming off the show so that everyone has this collective knowledge that they could talk about specific to those market applications. That day was a really big hit last year. And if you're not coming to that day and you build for one of those markets, you got to come to that place. By the way, I love seeing your comments. I'm also excited to see the Howick team at Advancing Prefab. I see Andrew out there, and I am going to New Zealand for the Digicom conference. So thanks for that shout out, Carell. I'll be out there the week after Advancing Prefab because who needs to sleep ever and go anywhere. But I'm really excited about that show, and I'm a big All Blacks Black Ferns fan in particular.
Are you really?
Oh my God, are you kidding me?
I know you're a rugby fan. Are we gonna do the hook? Is it the hook? What do they call the dance?
Haka. Yeah. So I played competitive rugby for 15 years. And that's, by the way, I'm glad we talked about this. My daughter plays right now for I think they're the 6th or 7th best high school girls team in the country. By the way, this year is the first year at Advancing Prefab. We're going to do a charity tie-in. And the charity, ready for this? Okay. The U.S. Women's Rugby Foundation. The U.S. Women's Rugby Foundation has an organization that raises money to support women's rugby and girls rugby all throughout the United States, including all the way up to our U.S. team. And so imagine this. I have 4 girls on my daughter's high school team that weld. 4. And you've got girls meeting in the thousands at these events, college level educated women and girls in high schools that are all across this country. So we're partnering with U.S. Women's Rugby Foundation. We're looking for some donations, and they want to pair you with these local colleges, local teams, local high school teams, so that when you're looking for a diverse population to come and work for you, I mean, listen, you got 4 targets here in New Jersey on my daughter's high school team. They're seniors, a couple of them, and they want to go into construction, mechanical engineering, and they all weld. So this is a great opportunity for us to show that if you truly want diversity, put your money where your mouth is, get out here and make some donations to the U.S. Women's Rugby Foundation at the event. They'll be at the awards night. They'll be at registration because we need a diverse population here, right? So That's a new thing that we have this charity tie-in, and thanks to the show for doing something so near and dear, to my heart. But by the way, if you're listening out there, Carell, I'm trying to meet Portia Woodman or any of the Black Ferns out there, because I'm pretty much a super fan obsessed with the Black Fern women's national team for rugby. So any of my friends that are listening out there, I'm bringing my gear. I'm trading some jerseys with some of our construction customers out there. But Portia Woodman, I'm coming for you. I'm coming for you.
All right. So here's a question, Amy. So there's a connection between athlete, right, and leaders. Isn't there a huge portion of women athletes that move on to significant leadership positions?
There really is. I think the Secretary of Commerce, actually, I think is one of them that played rugby. Yep. Anita Knox, who's on their executive board, who works for ABB as their global product, I forgot her exact title, but global product manager. She's actually going to be on one of the panels, and she's on the executive team. We just put out a study. There is a study actually about women athletes and leaders in corporate America and leaders throughout the world. Yep. I mean, you're talking about the same kind of connection between military and getting people into the business space. I mean, look, but let's talk. This is really rugby. So let me tell you why this is so good for construction. These girls already know how to wear boots. We already know how to wear PPE. We've got mouth guards in all the time. They know how to go to the bathroom in a porta potty because that's all we do at any tournament anywhere around the world. They know how to do their jobs. They play tough. And there's a body type for anyone that plays in rugby that are stronger than any body types that are out there. So you've got a wide variety, and you're getting a really great diverse population that plays women's rugby. So it is the perfect audience for, if you're trying to get women to come into the construction space. These women are for you. They've been outside. They know how to do their jobs. Again, PPE, they're tough. They're smart. All those reasons. By the way, I was in New York. There were 4,000 women rugby players across from New York City. Not a sign up from one of the big construction companies, not a donation. You've got 4,000 college and high school girls out there playing rugby. And it's
That's
Come
right.
on, you say you want women in the space. These are the women you want. Just stand by literally by the pitch, and you've got women that are taking, engineering degrees that are going into the trades. These are the people that you want. And so, yeah, anyone that near and dear to my heart, but anyone that wants to make a donation this year to the U.S. Women's Rugby Foundation, they'll be out there. They're going to be giving out pins for all donations. We'll be announcing some donations. So, but the real reason, honestly, Dave, that I wanted to do it is imagine if you could sponsor your local women's rugby team and get your banners out there where there are thousands of women coming to play, and you could actually start branding them young, branding them for life about coming to work at your construction firms. That's what we really need. They don't know the names of these companies. They need exposure to the names of these companies that are near them. So,
well, so I don't know if you know this. I played rugby for quite a few years as a wingback, and a right winger. And I will tell you that you're absolutely right. And another great place to go if you want to go to the warm weather, Savannah has a huge rugby tournament every year, which is also really great. And a lot of female athletes there as well. So
that's right.
That leads us into Diversity and Inclusivity Award. Amy, let's talk about that.
Yeah. So this year we're doing these awards. And there's an awards night. There is a diversity and inclusion champion of the year. I can't tell you who it is, obviously. Mum's the word. But it is a fantastic, fantastic candidate. And honestly, we were overwhelmed by all of the responses of people that wanted to nominate people. I think what's so great about the awards is that it really is time to recognize some people besides just a building project of the year or we wanted to make it really a little bit more expanded. There are a lot of people that do a lot of things around this ecosystem that are promoting things like diversity and inclusion, that are promoting teamwork, because we have a great team of the year that we're going to be promoting, because that's what it is. It's about changing culture, changing minds. I think our awards are really designed to be that different, just like everything else at this show, things you've never heard of before. And we really want to make sure that the awards represent the full spectrum of what's going out there in the space. No head injuries, Timothy. I see your comments. I was a tight head prop. I was like the enforcer, not the enforcee, I like to say. So no head injuries for me, knock wood. But yeah, and we already know that Henry is definitely
none that she's admitting to anyhow.
No, definitely. I'll tell you, interestingly enough, I got out 15 years. I got out relatively unscathed. A lot of electrical tape made my ears very pretty for many years, but yeah, I still have pretty ears being in the front row. But yeah.
Yeah. What were you? Were you a hooker? What were you?
No, I was a tight head prop.
And just so everybody understands, that's a rugby name. I wasn't.
Yes, it is. I was to the right of the hooker in the front row. I was that really big girl that got into all the the scrums and the rucks.
Right.
I was in the. By the way, I always say I was fighting it out, slugging it out, so that girls with much prettier hair than me could just go score. I could go score the actual tries. I just sucked in the defense, and and I got to score when it was kind of short, because this body doesn't run the field, it just doesn't. It can go a good 5 meters and score and take a few people with me, but I was not going the length of the field. You know what I mean?
Right. I love it. All right, let's get into a couple other topics here, and then we're going to go to some comments and questions. Let's talk about the race for better and more informed design, right? Yeah. It seems like there's a lot of this going on. Everybody's coming out with new platforms. There's a whole bunch of this, and where are we getting and how are we getting there, Amy?
Well, I think what's really great about this whole push towards informed design is the elevation of, building information modeling, which we've been on the road for many years at Autodesk. And I think it started with our conversation a couple of years ago around manufacturing informed design. How do we get the maker's information upfront attached to the component that architects and engineers are either consuming or owners are looking at to do things like test fit? But it's really expanded beyond just the manufacturing data. So we have lots of customers that want to understand that, let's call it that skid, not just how it's made and how it can be configured or how it can be actually customized, but they want to know things like the environmental information about that skid. They want to know about, if the pieces and parts are available from the supply chain. They want to know that every time they use that skid, that they can see past performance of when it's been used. So we're on this evolution to really make sure that eye in building information modeling is more and more intelligent. And I think all of our tools are starting to do that, whether it's from, things like insights, working within Revit, or, just, connected construction that's going on. All of these things, we have to stop using assumption-based design, right? So that's assumption-based design is what's, putting trash into our landfills. It's what's making us unable to create automation and invest in it in our factories. It's what's stopping us from really improving upon what we make. So I think that's the reason that informed design is so important that people really want from what's going on right now.
So Autodesk, what are you guys doing? What are your solutions for this? I'm curious.
Yeah, no, I think it's great. I think we have plenty of solutions on the road to where most of the industrialized construction wants to go to, whether it's, starting basic with common data environment where you're getting all of your data into one place and accessible for everyone to be able to access and for you to be able to find it, compute it, and use it. And again, not just the Autodesk data, but the data that exists from all the stakeholders in your companies, in your projects. So I think there's a lot around this year you'll hear around common data environment. I think you'll obviously hear about informed design and productization. So, how we're actually first productizing things and then what information needs to be available when you're productizing them. I do think connected construction will be a big topic this year and again, not just our products, but other people's products that we want to integrate into those workflows and that we already do integrate into those workflows. I think you're going to hear a hot topic around integrated factory modeling for those fabricators that truly want to move towards digital factories,
Mhm.
for customers building, buildings and factories that want to truly understand what's being built and how it will impact what's being made in those factories. I think that'll be a big topic. But remember, maybe this is a good time. We were a product company when we've mentioned some of our products like Revit or Autodesk Construction Cloud or things like Fusion. But in reality, we are moving to and have moved to being a platform company. So I always like to say, platform company, we have lots of things in the cloud where these things want to interact with our products, need to interact with these things that are in the cloud, some of which are partners, some of which we own, and some of which will be competitors' products in there that are needed to make these workflows happen in the cloud. I always say, think about a platform like this. When I go from here to the restaurant tonight on my Apple platform, I'll probably seamlessly use about 14 different apps, but I really won't know which is whose and who owns what. I'll just know that I looked up the place. I went and checked its reviews. I got to like call it based on hitting the phone number. I was able to figure out how to get there. I knew what to wear. I could check social media, figure out what I was going to order and see pictures. So magically, if I want to get from here to the restaurant, I'm going to use 14 apps on this Apple platform. I don't know what Apple owns, what doesn't.
Right.
Just like in the future state, I think of Autodesk, there'll be a ways, and there probably already is some big ones out there. Obviously, we have like 5,000 apps at this point on the Autodesk platform services. But as all of our stuff moves to the cloud to enable more cloud integrations, and I think that's the important part. You want this to be that magical experience of you going to the restaurant, of you being able to do something in our space, right? Like you don't want to have to think, I got to get out of this one. I got to go into this one. The data has to be massaged to go in this one. We are truly, cloud information models with Forma, Fusion, and Flow that you heard about at AU is the direction we are going to. And I think that that's what's so interesting. And by the way, you all know that's why I came to Autodesk. I believe that I always say, remember, on platforms, Waze lives on my Apple platform. So does Spotify Music. So does, a lot of other things that I use every day, even though there's an Apple Music and even though there's an Apple directional map, there's lots of things that I get to use and choose on my platform. And I think that's the part we have to start thinking about.
What's your favorite music?
Well, obviously rap. For those of you who know me, like I'm into rap. Most people know that. It's funny. I was doing a little music education with my daughter this weekend. But for those, I mean, I'm an 80s kid. So like I love rap to the max. Like
I got it. I was working out to some Eminem this morning, man.
Are you?
I was at the gym. It was getting me going. I love it.
I feel I'm a little bit more like Luda Nation, and I'm a little bit more like, that kind of back in the day. But like, yeah, I like new stuff. I like all the new thug rap stuff that I listen to, all the interesting, like there's sort of like my boyfriend, by the way, loves country music. We're a little bit like a house divided.
I like country too.
Yeah. I've started to like the storytelling aspect of the hooks of that as well. But I'm much more into rap and sort of the modern women empowerment rap I really like as well.
You said something a few minutes ago, and one of the things I want to point out, Amy, so much because you live and breathe this every day that sometimes we forget to educate people on what we mean when we say certain things, and I'm guilty as well. So that's why I'm going to ask you this. You said connective construction will be a hot topic. Define what that means, because we're talking about it all the time, but not everybody has time to watch everything that I'm doing or everything that you're doing. So why don't you explain that? Because I agree with you. I think it's going to be a really big topic, not just today, but I think moving into the future.
Yeah, I think in general, what people need to recognize is that there are solutions that are out there like connected construction that are going to enable you to actually track data from start to finish whether it's in the pre-construction phase or the construction phase or the estimating phase and then construction phase, all the way through, digital twin and asset management. And I think it's not just construction from a documents perspective. If you are truly looking at connecting the construction of something that you're building with things like, factory simulation or product simulation, or, whether you're making a vaccine or you're making cars or you're making, anything out there these days, or it's a data center, that connected construction is not just about connecting the documentation from start to finish. It's understanding your choices in a predictive nature that are going to give you things like energy analysis or embodied carbon analysis that we have other solutions for. So it's really being able to tie it from an end-to-end perspective, but much more broad than like most others are talking about when they only speak about things like just schedules or just RFIs. And again, like
Right.
those are great things, but I think you have to think about more holistically what beyond just ourselves, what we want to understand about connecting this construction so that we can think about how to reuse things and how to reuse information and how to reuse processes and physical products again and again to create more certainty, right? So I think connected construction is going to be a big hot topic. And again, not one of these things by themselves get you to industrialized construction or
Mhm.
better sustainable outcomes. It really is going to be, and I'm going to talk about this in the keynote, about a progression of these solutions and a maturity within each that will allow you to progress, on the path of
Sure.
solutions and things like that. So
I love it. All right. You talk about convergence as well. You say it is a revolution. What is converging and what is a revolutionary? Why can't we just do it the way we have always done it, Amy? Let's talk about convergence first.
well, I mean, listen, convergence is such a great phrase, but at really its basic definition, it's, we're talking about processes that are converging, technologies that are converging, and real industries that are converging and changing their business models. That's the end of it. If you think about convergence from a technology perspective, we're seeing the convergence of technology into some of these companies that are getting on this path to digitalization that used to be working on paper, or they were working on some technology, some paper, some on-prem and not really in the cloud. So I think that's the part about convergence I think is really important to recognize internally at companies. But then externally, we have to recognize that many of the businesses that are out there don't just need one type of business model. They're thinking about other, like crossing over from places like design to construction to manufacturing, and they at least need to understand how the information is going to flow, or ownership. I always say, like, we say design make obviously at Autodesk all the time, but in my head it's more like operate, make, design, inform, right? So if you think about it, all of those are converging, those four categories. And really, in order to take advantage of that, you need to embrace technology, and you need to be able to get it out of our heads,
Right.
and we need to get it, out of, by the way, I always say, when we're still selling things in our space with our mouth and our feet, we've probably made a mistake at this point still, right? There's very few things in our space that are truly connected, where we can find things within the tools we're using and make sure that we are using the right piece parts or the right software. We have to truly really focus on that connectivity between, what information people need and what they want to do to change their business models. Because listen, I think that that's the thing. Like, the business models are dramatically changing right now
Yeah.
because of convergence.
Earlier in the show, you mentioned maturity assessment. What is that? And what's happening there?
So we've launched the Industrialized. We've launched a few things actually. We've launched an education program at Autodesk that we're doing through our customer success group. So we've actually, you all know that we have a master's level course that's free and online. We talked about it last year. We've evolved that into a learning hub offering for all of our companies to be able to go on and have little bites of this education. And we've evolved it even further. Now we're actually going and doing it in person for companies that want to have education around industrialized construction. In fact, I did 2 of those myself in December and January. I went out to big companies and we did a whole education program for big companies around industrialized construction to start creating education for those companies. So once you're educated, then you have to ask yourself, okay, now that I know what it is, how good am I at it? So you have to think about the industrialized construction maturity assessment as okay, well, not only do I want to assess myself, let's say if I'm a general contractor, but I want to assess all my potential supply chain partners at some point. And a lot of those supply chain partners want to already assess themselves so that they can actually get better at some of the things like technology or automation and robotics or culture or DFMA, design for manufacturing principles. So if I looked in my crystal ball, I feel like the industrialized construction maturity assessment is going to be a great way for people to have, an unbiased opinion about where they're really at in some of these places that you want to work with them, and really for improvement purposes,
Yeah.
so that those people know what they want to do to get to the next level of maturity, whether that's in automation or if that's in technology, whatever that is. You need to first know where you're at, right? You got to sort of like take stock before you improve. And that ICMA is a really big deal. And I think we're really happy to be working with Haley and Aldrich at Autodesk
Hmm.
to do that with them.
ICMA stands for.
Industrialized Construction Maturity Assessment, which Henry
Love it.
Mickelberg will. I'd love to tell you, your name came up the other day because we want to have, and
Henry.
we do. Did I say Henry?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Henry Mickelberg.
Right. So Henry mentioned to me one day, I
Love it.
really want rigor around this ICMA. And I'm like, yes, Henry, we are. Every time I think about like when we want to really get down to what the scorecards look like and how they have to be, I think of Henry, and so does H&A. We think about rigor. And I think that's really important that these become standardized scorecards and that everybody knows. And by the way, one of my other customers said, yeah, but for that, what am I doing? Looking at a 5-6-year-old website and not understanding if they really
Right.
can or cannot make that assembly. And I'm like, yeah, that's really why we did this, so that everyone could start learning, progressing, understanding. I think so. That's a big deal. And Haley and Aldrich will be there. I'll be at the booth at Autodesk Construction Cloud talking about that as well. And if you want to come up and chat with us, they'll be there too, I'm sure.
Yeah, we got a couple things. In fact, I'll see you at Advancing Prefab and Steel Horizons coming
I
up too.
know
We're starting to hang out a lot more these days. I love it. All right.
it is good. I like it.
We're gonna get to some comments here in just a moment. I want to get through one more question, or one for Amy. But if you do have a question, put a Q in front of it. It'll make it easier for me to find it when I look. I haven't even looked yet. Henry Mickelberg, my guess, is probably in the audience writing a novel because he likes to write. But we'll get to that. So, Amy, what's holding us back, right? What's in the way? Why is there so much support for IC, industrialized construction, yet so many failures published in the headlines? What are you, Amy Marks, doing to rise above the noise? And how do we actually make a big change?
So, I mean, I know we've talked about this in the past, and I talk about this on every show that I'm at. I just feel like, look, I'm going to talk about it in the sense of like, look at diversity and inclusion right now. It's no longer, hopefully, where we think there's only like one seat at the table, where it's like, oh, well, if there's one woman up there, there can't be two. Like, we got to swap them out. And it's like, that's not true. Or one person of color. In reality, I'll build you a new table. We'll get more chairs around. And I do think that unfortunately, I almost said traditional modular space, like or how, I don't know how to
Uh-oh.
even say that, in these words. It's kind of strange. But I do think the evolution of what's gone on is that it's been a very like only one seat at the table. And I do read, for those of you who don't think that I read LinkedIn every single day, I do. You see my little emojis, that's me answering and things like that. So I just feel like there just needs to be more collaboration and a little bit less a little bit like I'm the only one that's there, or I'm the only one that can give this, or it's only my language, or only this thing. It's like I just feel like there's a little bit too much of that going around right now. And that, yes, it's a broad spectrum of what's going on out there, and we can be welcoming and embracing to all of it. And so I think some of that needs to change a little bit. And for those of you who really know me well, you know that I try to answer every LinkedIn, every message. I try to get, when anyone needs a job, I'm the one to call, because I'll try to facilitate things. Or if you want to meet somebody or do something, I just truly believe in that collaboration thing. Like, I think that we really need to help each other and stop, sort of saying like I'm the only one that does this, or I'm the only one, or this. It's funny, I just read a post and it was like, the only way to do that thing is this. And I'm like, there hardly any things in this life. For those of you who know me, I always say there's more than one way in the house. There's the front door, the back door, the chimney, the cellar, the window. Like, there's more than one way to do a
Yeah.
lot of different things. And so I just wish I didn't have to read so much like, well, we're the only people talking about this, or again, like, I think it's really important that we embrace what's happening out there, and that there's some more kindness a little bit out there, and that people are more willing to work together. I know that's really important to me personally on a personal level. And I know it is to you too. So I think
Yeah.
that's what's the number one thing that's holding us back is that I think in our own space. Um,
You know what? I see it all the time out there as well. Tomato, tomato, the back and forth. It's not, not always very supportive. Um, but I agree. And I think, this is why your circles and my circles are starting to come together a little bit more
yeah,
because, we're collaborating and the groups that we're speaking with are all starting to converge. And I think it's going to be the biggest thing that drives this forward. To me, it's just not Autodesk. It's just not the
no,
other organizations that are out there. It's all of us, and we all have a really important role to play in it. And if we all play in the sandbox together, it helps everybody in every organization that's out there. And I think that's a really, really big thing. And I commend you for that because I know over the years, we have been back and forth on how
yeah.
do we bring people together.
And by the way, that's not an easy thing to say in this space, in that environment. Like you and I both know, I'm out there myself on LinkedIn saying things, answering people back when people challenge me, answering them back and giving them my phone number to call me, to have conversations, being open about things like that, and answering questions that come up in any form. Like, I think we've all got to look, if this was something that one group or anyone could sell to you, we'd all own it already. Like, just
Yeah.
let's get over that part. We all have to work together, and I think there's a lot of factions out there that need to recognize that. And I think if we could come together, it would help all of us. Because funny enough, like even let's bring it back to advancing prefab. In advancing prefab, you've got mechanical engineers, electrical, all kinds of engineers. You got all the trade contractors. You've got all the general contractors out there, owners sitting out there, architects, engineers, and that show has enabled this conversation. And by the way, they're all making all prefabricated assemblies. We've got traditional modular guy. I'm going to start calling them
Right.
that. I think traditional modular companies
Traditional.
in there. But isn't that funny? But they're all out there. And so if that show has evolved and almost 10x'd itself in this is our 7th year, can't we all just have an open conversation and get along? Because I think everyone is good at certain things. We're not all good at everything. There's a reason there are trade associations for electrical, mechanical, and plumbing. They should be doing their part, which they are. And there are things that companies can do, and there are things that private individuals can do, but there's probably not one company or group that can do everything. And I think that's
Right.
how we define collaboration, at least in my book. By the way, I'm the first one. When I grew up in construction, my dad was like, "Don't touch your electrical, you'll die." And I was like, "Okay." So usually when it gets to the electrical part, even I've now been in the space for
Right.
decades, I'll still phone a friend, electrician friend of mine. I'm like, "Hey, I don't want to die. How does that like?" I'm not good at everything. Nobody is. So
Yeah.
we have to figure out the right people for the right groups.
For sure.
Yeah, Nikola Tesla learned that the hard way, Henry, for sure. Like
Yeah.
we have to make sure that. By the way, and the other part is, I just don't want to rearrange deck chairs on the Titanic. You know what I'm saying? It's like we can fight over these little things, but at the same time, you've got all these normal like contractors already building their own fabrication shops and factories and owners. And it's like you want to fight over this little tiny like 0.005. Fine, but like I'm going to this space where where it's gonna where it's flourishing. And I think we just please, that's my plea out to those that aren't
Yeah.
really collaborating openly.
I have not heard anybody say they don't want to ever rearrange deck chairs on the Titanic. That would be a tough thing to do, but it really drives it home. Before the show, we were talking about new models of digital collaboration and transparency, ones that can replace old ones of exclusivity. Businesses, developers, and governments must enter new ecosystems, and there needs to be heightened awareness of inclusivity. And Amy, I'm telling you, I'm in. I love it. I think we got to keep driving this forward. Why don't we go and flash some names up of those out there supporting us today and some comments if there are. I saw there was some cues and some questions. We'll get to that, and then we'll wrap it up here. Look at all these people in here. I'm going to fly through a couple quick hellos. Joel says, I didn't think your title could get any longer. Well done. Make it even more confusing, Amy Marks.
Wait, I got to answer that back. So, Joel calls me his work mom sometimes, like as a joke, like, cause we've been around the block. Like I've been here a long time. That's how you're old. You're not the work wife anymore. You're the work mom. And so I'm laughing. I think my title is not as confusing. Like when I first said industrialized construction, everybody was confused. So if I'm not teaching, I got to keep teaching, Joel, all the time. And I think that, yeah, it is pretty long.
I love it. Hey, Tom Reed, we'll just give a couple quick shout outs as we run through all these. I want to make sure everybody gets a quick hello. Timothy says we were talking about industrialized construction, advanced connections for framing, light, steel, framing, and refab. I love it. So appreciate everybody that does tune in. Hey, Amy, these are some of my favorite people. I don't know if you know Mateo and his brother. They're 26 years old and they have their own offsite manufacturing facility that they have built, and they are actually building modules. Super smart guys. You should know Mateo and his brother. Super great. They're from Louisiana. They call me Mr. Dave. I love it.
I want to know anybody who's younger than 30. Like I'm looking for I always have a reverse mentor, by the way, in my like coaching situation.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, I'd love to see what the expected experience of young people in the spaces. So yeah.
They're super smart. Well, here's a question from what are some of the cool initiatives, developments at Autodesk that the industry, especially startups, should keep an eye on?
I think we're doing some really great things around AR, VR right now, with the wild and things that are going on there. And I think, we're doing some great stuff around manufacturing informed design. There's stuff around digital twins, obviously, that you've all heard about with Tandem. I do think there's some great things going on around some of our sustainability solutions that I think you should keep an eye out for. So things like energy analysis, things like embodied carbon that people want to understand in association with the things that they're fabbing. That's really great. So look, I think at the end of the day, I always say, like, for my young guys out there and ladies, this is like this. If you could get in on the ground floor of the internet and start building some connective tissue apps that need to be there so that people can magically get to their places, now's your time. Get up on there on Autodesk Platform Services and understand how the developers, network works over there, because you could be building some of this amazing digital connections. Look, what's Waze worth on my Apple phone these days? I don't even know, billions. It's probably like a couple $1 billion or whatever it's worth. But like, you could be building the next Waze on the Autodesk, platform.
Somebody help me build an app, please.
Yeah, let's do it. Like, I'm ready.
I'm in.
But I think that's for the young people out there that are interested in that. Steve Burrows. I know Steve Burrows.
Yeah, Steve. Do Autodesk have any data showing that industrialized construction is cheaper than on-site, highly efficient, labor-intensive stick built?
We are putting together some knowledge center information, especially with the education program that we're doing. But I got to be honest, Steve, these days, every job that I go to around the world, that's not the question anymore. Period. End of story. It's not, should we stick build this or should we build it like prefab? It's just about evaluating different prefabrication industrialized construction methodologies, whether they want to go, pre-kitted, or they want to do like a kit of parts, or they want to do something that's more larger assemblies or things like that. For me, on the jobs that I go out and talk to, it's never like, should we stick build this versus that? That's never, it doesn't even come into play anymore.
Yeah.
Like, I know that sounds crazy. Look, you have gray hair. I saw in your picture. I do too, but it's just a little easier to cover. But that's what we thought people used to ask. And I'm not even getting that question anymore. Listen, is it cheaper or not cheaper? We don't have the labor to actually build lots of these big projects. This is a true story. I had a $1 billion hospital maybe last year say to me, we can't build it. Sorry, $3 billion, I think was the hospital number at this point in time in the place in the world. And they literally said this, we can't build this but for prefabrication. I said, great. So let's figure out what we're going to break down and figure out, like, because that's part of what Autodesk also does in consulting, is we do these like project kickoffs when we figure out what to prefab, and we help you like through your process and how technology uses to track it. But at the same time, they're like, yeah, we'd like it to be cheaper than conventional. I'm like, conventional is impossible. So like, does it really matter at this point for you? You just told me it's impossible. So it's like, what do you care? Like at this point, it's like, if you just said it's impossible because we don't have the skilled labor out there, that's the answer. There's no reason to go back and be like, and by the way, all the numbers they have on the benchmark are pre-COVID. So I'm like, this is just garbage anyway at this point. So it's like, Steve, honestly, I really don't even run into that question anymore. If that makes sense.
Appreciate you, Steve. Thank you very much. Still waiting for my ride in that private jet you're sitting in. All right, Logan Potts, lead Green Associates. So will Autodesk do material takeoffs and automated estimate building in the future for total integration? Would be neat to create AI, ML with lipstick, driven estimates off just design, especially for your larger projects.
I'm going to tell you right now that you should stop by the Autodesk Construction Cloud booth, because we are doing some stuff around material takeoffs and estimates that are really fantastic in the last release of what's gone on at Autodesk Construction Cloud. So yes, and yes. And for those of you who don't know that we've also bought a company called Pipe, which uses machine learning and AI around specification building and RFIs. Like it's all out there right now. And I think in order for you to get the best answer from the person that should really answer that for you, come on by the booth for Autodesk Construction Cloud. But the answer is yes and yes. And the answer is yes, we want to do more. And if you have a product or something that's out there that you want to understand how to connect to the workflows for something like Autodesk Construction Cloud, that's available to you. We can actually help you get your product into the platform so that people can actually use, and we know what the workflows are with your particular products.
Joel Hutchins is listening to me. I love it. He put a Q in front of his question. Hey, buddy, how does Autodesk facilitate the connection acquiring companies?
I feel like
Smiley face.
this is like a softball, probably, like to me. But yes,
He does this. He's setting you up. I watch. You'll see.
I know he does all the time. So that's what happened. You have like, that's what your work sons do to you.
Yeah.
So I do think, listen, there's partnering with Autodesk and building on our platform, which everyone can do on our Autodesk platform. There's partnering with us so that you can go to a lot of great things like our hackathons. You can get involved in some of our incubation projects. You can work with the foundation at Autodesk. I think we obviously do investments into certain companies that we feel are important from either a technology perspective or a user perspective or a functionality perspective, things like of that nature. And then, yes, we've also bought amazing companies that are in our offerings right now, that you use every day that you may not have known have come from buying another company. So I think it's all of the above, really, right? So I think, again, like we said, there's more than one way in the house. And there's lots of ways to partner with Autodesk. And by the way, I'll make a pitch. Come to AU. You can see all of those groups at Autodesk University, for those of you who don't go to that conference, and see them all there and exhibit and talk to people and meet people and find ways. By the way, if you're consulting out there in the space, there's a place for you. We have partner consultants that we work with that come out when we, need certain consulting done, or we want to use their products in our consulting, that we work with also. So if you're one of those fantastic guys out there that's doing consulting around the industrialized construction space, we need you also. We want to talk to you about working with us as sub-consultants or in partnering with us on consulting. We have obviously resellers that work with us and things like that. So I think there's so many ways to work with Autodesk that it's, that's how we do it, Joel.
Love it. Thanks, Joel. Appreciate you tuning in. Devon Tilley, Superstars at Work. Good to see you, Devon. Hope you're doing well. Hope your podcast is going well as well. He gets a lot of views, that guy. All right. I also want to
podcast. What's your podcast?
Devon, put your podcast in there in the comments.
I'll go watch you.
That's right. That's right. We also got Tom Reed from Howick. This is Tom here in the United States. Man, I love Howick. I love Tom. Tom, appreciate you taking time out of your busy day. In my humble opinion, the best cold form steel rolling machines out there. Especially they got telescoping machine. They can make a telescoping stud.
By the way, they could do that for a long time. Tom Reed and I go way back. Like way, right, Tom? We go way, way back. I really love roll forming machines and things that, like, for years and years, as Tom knows, I've been out to all the bigs, like years and years ago. I've been friends with all those guys because it's something that I hold near and dear to my heart. I really love it. I also love wood and mass engineered timber for those people that know me. But Tom and I go way, way back.
Yeah, I don't know if you know this, but I mean, with the Howick machines, some of the greatest, software writers for their machines actually came out of the Autodesk lab. They had students that were working in the lab, and now they're doing Disney World and the big, printing these steel structures that you would never imagine could be printed out of a machine. It's quite amazing.
By the way, that's one of the ways you can get involved in Autodesk. So they actually have machines in our technology centers, and they're residents. Yeah. They're residents in our technology center in Boston, and we have technology centers, a few of them around the world. But you can get involved with our technology centers, and that's how amazing things like the one you just described actually happen. So they actually in Boston have one of their machines up there. And so definitely check out our technology centers. That's a great way if you're new. Or by the way, we have a lot of big companies that actually go into the technology centers for our resident program because they're interested to be surrounded by all the cool things that are happening in the technology center.
Yeah. And you know what? We'll have a chance to see that with the Howick Steel Horizon event that's coming up. They're going to start announcing it here soon. Yes. That'll be a chance. If those of you out there would like to go to Autodesk and learn more and see what's going on, Amy, I think you're moderating that event, or at least part of it, if not all of it. And I'll be up there speaking as well. So looking forward to that too.
I will definitely be there with bells on, whatever they ask me to do. They just point me in the direction and I'll do it. How's that from Howick and those guys at Autodesk Construction? So yeah, I'm in.
Perfect. Perfect. All right, two more comments and then we're going to wrap it up here. Mark Drury, thanks for joining us, Mark. Construction is the greatest. Team sport and collaboration is the key. I lost it there. Moving away from industry leadership that is pale, male, and stale by diversifying our workforce in every seat.
You know why he's saying that, right, Dave? Because that used to be my phrase about construction leadership, that pale, male, and stale comment. Because look, I was like, listen, if we were all 23-year-old Latinas, I would say something else, but we're just not. Like, and I will say, yes, we have to diversify.
PMS.
We just have to really we have to diversify the leadership, right? It's diversity and perspective. Because again, like I get a lot of calls these days lately when new people come into the space and they start saying like, well, this is the way it's got to be. And like, and then I look at who they are and they're just like, ugh, can't we get like a few, like, I know they're new and they don't know we've been around here, but there's a lot of diversity that exists already in the space.
Yep.
And, you know, again, if you looked at my last post, I used to introduce myself to every woman in the room. It's impossible now. And I love to talk to all the young people and all the, you know, people of diverse populations, but it's almost impossible now in some of the rooms, not all of them. Sometimes I go and it's not enough. But by the way, if you want to speak at any of the events that I'm involved with, please reach out to me if you are, you know, and you want to get your point across. Feel free to call me.
Call Amy. We'll put her phone number up on screen for the world to have.
DM me on LinkedIn. DM me on LinkedIn, I should say. My phone, you don't want to call my phone.
All right. So, Gregory Lahab, there is no one perfect solution. However, as a collective, we can solve these issues. Good to see you, Gregory. Thank you for tuning
Gregory,
in.
and there's also no one collective that can solve this. So I've seen a lot of stuff out there about new organizations and things that are out there forming. There's also not one collective that can solve this. And they're all working on different things, you know, whether that's guys working on the education side or people working on the heavy technology side, or, you know, there's a lot of great things going on around the world. It's not always, you know, there's collaboration abound, right? So just remember that. And by the way, how many things have I ever said no to, Dave? Like, you know me, if somebody asks me
very often
to get involved with something or give my opinion or see something, I'm in. So like, if I'm not involved in something that you hear out there, or you see out there that you want me to be, give me a call. I'm usually like, it's hard for me to ever say no.
Love it. Love it. All right, last comment, and then we're going to wrap up with you, Amy, on your parting thoughts as well. It's Mass Timber How-Tos. What's up, Amy and Dave? Ricky from Woodworks checking in from Vermont. Man, I love it. Hopefully you're getting some good snow up there, so the ski resorts are doing well.
Or at least eating some good ice cream. Like that's what I think when I think.
There you go, right? Ben and Jerry's are there, Vermont, right?
Exactly.
Right?
We have different priorities, you and I.
Let's talk about the one thing, Amy. We always like to ask people, you know, if there's one thing you can leave the audience today, something motivational, inspirational, you know, something that they can do to rise above the noise, or something about great leadership, what would you say?
I'm going to say this, which this is a new one. I think I haven't said in any of the podcasts yet. I always say, if I could wave my Queen of Prefab magic wand, what could I give you? So I'm going to answer it slightly differently today. And I think maybe reach out to somebody that has a differing opinion than you do about the space in the next, like, find 3 people that you either haven't met that are talking about things you don't know about, or maybe you don't agree, or you see things out there that you don't agree with. Maybe reach out to them and see if we can reach across and have a conversation. That's what I'm going to leave, the one thing that everyone can do here today.
Love it. Thank you for that. All right. And guess what, Amy? We're on a new venture today, too, because Joel Hutchinson said that he's going to help us build that app.
I love it. He is
somebody that could do that. So I'd follow Joel. What the heck? I might get myself in trouble every once in a while, but that's the fun part about hanging out with Joel. He's a lot of fun.
We need thousands of apps. Just think of it like what you look at when you go to the app store. Don't worry about it. There's plenty of room for everybody.
I know. And Joel, we're going to have you on the show here again soon to learn all about the things you have going on right now as well. All right, Amy, listen, that is a wrap for today. Thank you so much for joining us on the show. Is there anything that I forgot or I did not mention that you need to put out there and you're going to yell at me as soon as I hang up and say, Dave, you forgot to ask me this?
First of all, I don't yell at people. But secondly, I think that, check out my Queen of Prefab YouTube channel. All the podcasts that I do, I try to post up there so that if you want to go to one place for learning, check out Queen of Prefab on YouTube. And again, like, just reach out. Like, the only thing I would say that you ever forgot is nothing. Like, right? Like, and sign up for Advancing Prefab. Like, literally get to Advancing Prefab by however means necessary. Get there and learn some things and share some things and just be part of the conversation in the community.
That's right. That's right. Amy, thank you so much. And the rest of you out there, it is Monday. That means you got all week to keep working on building it better. That's what's fun about this. We'll be back Wednesday and again on Friday at 1 p.m. And guess what? We're doing some end cards now. So if you want an opportunity to put your name out there at an affordable price, give us a call. Check it out. Amy, don't go anywhere. We'll come back to you right after the show. And the rest of you, let's build it better.